You are sitting in a mahogany chair in a federal courtroom. The air conditioning hums, completely failing to clear the heavy, anxious atmosphere of the room. You are wearing a bespoke Italian suit that cost more than the prosecutor's car. Your posture is relaxed, your hands are perfectly still. You are waiting for the judge to speak. Sitting next to you is your client. To the media, he is a logistics coordinator. To the authorities, he is the chief enforcer for the most methodical organization on the continent. A man whose mere shadow makes witnesses permanently change their zip codes. The evidence against him was massive. Wiretaps, surveillance photos, financial anomalies. It should have been a 30-year sentence, but you are not here to argue his innocence. Innocence is a concept for amateurs in Hollywood movies. You are here to argue procedure. The judge clears his throat. He looks at you with a mixture of professional respect and absolute disgust. He announces that due to a break in the chain of custody regarding the primary digital evidence and an improperly filed search warrant executed 3 minutes before the authorized window, the evidence is inadmissible. The case is dismissed. The gavel hits the block. The sound echoes like a gunshot. Your client smiles a thin, cold smile. He adjusts his cuffs and walks out the front door, stepping back into the world to resume his work. You pack your expensive fountain pen into your leather briefcase. You just released a monster back into the ecosystem, and you did it entirely within the boundaries of the law. You are the most brilliant defense attorney of your generation, and you are fundamentally ruined. How did you arrive at this exact point? You did not start as a villain. Nobody ever does. 7 years ago, you were a public defender. You were drowning in student loan debt, working 80-hour weeks, trying to ensure the justice system did not simply crush people who could not afford to defend themselves. You lived in a tiny apartment, ate cheap takeout, and believed in the purity of the Constitution. You were exhausted, but you slept perfectly every night. Then came the impossible month. Your mother was diagnosed with a degenerative condition. The public health system offered a waiting list that was longer than her life expectancy. The private treatment required a deposit of $50,000. You had exactly $800 in your savings account. My desperation is the architect of every permanent mistake. A man walked into your cramped office late on a Thursday. He wore a subtle, expensive watch and spoke with a calm, unnerving politeness. He did not introduce himself properly. He slid a thick, sealed envelope across your scratched desk. He said his employer required a dedicated legal mind to review some corporate documents and handle minor structural defense cases for their logistics team. The retainer was $100,000 a month. In cash. You looked at the envelope. You thought about your mother's medical charts. You told yourself that everyone deserves a rigorous legal defense. You told yourself you were just a lawyer doing a lawyer's job. You told yourself it was only temporary, just until the medical bills were cleared. That is the universal lie of the underworld. The fairy tale you whisper to your own conscience. You take the money, and the door locks behind you. Your evolution is terrifyingly rapid. You discover that you have a unique, almost sociopathic talent for dissecting the legal code. You do not look at police reports to find the truth. You look at them to find the microscopic administrative errors. A missing signature on page 4. A timestamp that contradicts a traffic camera by 60 seconds. A technical discrepancy in the way a GPS tracker was authorized. You weaponize bureaucracy. You win your first 3 cases effortlessly. The men you represent walk out of holding cells and back into the shadows. The organization notices. You are no longer given the minor logistical problems. You are given the heavy portfolio. Your new clients are the architects of the organization's expansion. The men who authorize the permanent resolution of rivals. The operators who ensure the merchandise flows continuously across international borders. They do not talk to you about their activities. You do not ask. Ignorance is the primary clause in your unwritten contract. You learn to speak entirely in corporate euphemisms. You call extortion unregulated tax collection. You call intimidation aggressive market negotiation. You sanitize the horrors of the underworld with a law degree and a silver tongue. The wealth hits you like a tidal wave. You move into a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. You buy the cars, you eat at restaurants where the chef personally visits your table and never brings a bill. Your mother receives the best medical care available on the planet, extending her life in absolute comfort. But the luxury is a perfectly decorated illusion. The paranoia begins in year 3. You realize that your success has made you the most valuable asset the organization possesses. The enforcers can be replaced. The distributors can be swapped. But the man who knows how to legally unpick the locks of the federal justice system, you are irreplaceable. And in this specific ecosystem, being irreplaceable means you can never, ever be allowed to leave. You are assigned a permanent security detail. 3 men in dark suits who accompany you everywhere. They stand outside your office. They sit in the lobby of your residential building. They follow you to the grocery store. The organization tells you they are there to protect you from rival factions. You are smart enough to know the absolute truth. They are not your protectors. They are your wardens. They are there to ensure you never walk into an embassy. They are there to ensure you never speak to a federal agent. They are there to verify that your loyalty does not expire. Your personal life simply evaporates. You try to date a woman you met at an art gallery. She is brilliant, kind, and completely civilian. You date for 4 months. Then one evening, she asks why the men in the SUV outside always follow your car. She asks why you receive phone calls at 3 in the morning and speak in hushed, terrified whispers. You look at her and you realize that every second she spends near you pulls her deeper into a blast radius she cannot survive. You break her heart to save her life. You tell her you do not love her. You walk away, cementing your absolute isolation. The psychological toll begins to manifest physically. You develop a tremor in your left hand. You start taking prescription anxiety medication, carefully sourced through discreet channels, so there is no official medical record. You mix the pills with high-end scotch just to trick your brain into shutting down for 4 hours a night. When you look in the mirror, you do not see the idealistic public defender anymore. You see a highly paid mechanic who oils the gears of a machine that crushes human beings. The breaking point arrives disguised as a routine consultation. You are summoned to a secure location, a concrete structure hidden beneath a legitimate agricultural front. You sit at a metal table. The regional director of the organization sits across from you. He does not want you to defend a past action. He wants you to provide legal structuring for a future operation. We have a competitor causing friction in the northern sector, the director says, his voice entirely devoid of emotion. If this competitor were to experience a sudden, permanent disappearance, we need to know the exact legal exposure for our transport division in that area. We need you to structure a preemptive alibi. Corporate meetings, verifiable digital footprints, sworn affidavits dated for tomorrow. Your stomach turns to ice. The air leaves your lungs. Defending a crime after the fact is your job. Engineering the legal cover for an elimination before it happens makes you an active, indispensable conspirator. It crosses the final invisible boundary. You are no longer reacting to the darkness. You are drawing the blueprints for it. You try to find a polite way to decline. You mention attorney-client privilege limits. You mention regulatory oversight. The director stops you by simply raising his hand. He looks at you with dead, reptilian eyes. "Counselor," he says softly, "you built this house with us. You don't get to refuse to paint the walls." He slides a folder across the table. It contains photographs, not of targets. Photographs of your mother, walking in the garden of her specialized care facility. Photographs of your sister, dropping her children off at their elementary school. "We value your expertise," the director continues. "We value your family's continued health. Please provide the structuring." You open your briefcase. You take out your pen. Your hand is shaking so violently you can barely grip the metal. You draft the documents. You create the alibis. You build the legal fortress that will allow a group of men to take a human life tomorrow night and walk away completely untouched. You sign your soul away on the dotted line. From that moment on, the last remaining fragments of your humanity die. You are now the organization's captive legal architect. The authorities finally begin to understand your role. The federal prosecutors assemble a task force specifically designed to dismantle your legal strategies. You are audited constantly. Your bank accounts are scrutinized. You are placed on international watch lists. You cannot travel to Europe. You cannot cross the border. You are trapped in a perpetual state of warfare. By day, you fight the government in courtrooms, using your brilliant mind to bend the law until it breaks. By night, you sit in your penthouse, surrounded by armed guards you do not trust, drinking yourself into a stupor, jumping at every unexpected shadow. You realize the ultimate, crushing truth of your existence. You possess a mind capable of outsmarting the entire federal justice system, and you used it to design your own permanent solitary confinement. You walk to the floor-to-ceiling window of your penthouse. The city lights stretch out below you, glittering in the dark. Millions of people living normal lives, dealing with normal problems. You have tens of millions of dollars buried in offshore trusts you can never safely access. You have suits made of the finest silk. You have a reputation that makes prosecutors grind their teeth in frustration. But you have absolutely nothing else. The burner phone on your glass desk vibrates. It is 3:14 a.m. You know exactly what that vibration means. A problem has occurred. A liability needs to be resolved. An operation requires your immediate, unquestioning legal sanitization. You close your eyes. You take a deep breath of the perfectly filtered, climate-controlled air. You walk to the desk and pick up the phone. You press answer. You do not ask what happened. You do not ask who was hurt. You simply ask for the case file, because the lawyer who gets the worst men out of prison is the only man who can never, ever negotiate his own release.